My brothers and sisters, sit down and watch this story because what I'm about to tell you will make you laugh, cry, and shake your head at the foolishness of man, specifically my own foolishness. Once upon a time, in the great land of Ndieze, I was an ordinary man, living my life peacefully like every other poor villager. My biggest problem, however, was how to make my 1.5 tubers of yam last for an entire month. I was so broke that if hunger were a kingdom, I would have been the first son of the king. But fate is a comedian, and one day, he decided to crack a joke with my life. My elder brother, Nana, who had inherited all of our father's lands, suddenly passed away and left behind a vast expanse of farmland that could feed an entire generation. Nana was rich but stingy. That was why, when he was alive, he never assisted me with even half a plot of land, and he was also maltreating his wife, Adaku, blaming her for not giving him a child. Now, according to tradition, since my brother died without an heir, I inherited everything, including Adaku. That was how I, Ikenga, the hungry poor man, suddenly became Ikenga, the wealthy landowner. Ah, my people, money is a spirit, and the moment it enters a man's life, his behavior will change faster than a rat fleeing from a hungry cat. At first, I was humble. I treated Adaku well, gave her the best parts of my meat, and even let her drink palm wine straight from my calabash. But 6 months passed, and Adaku's stomach remained as flat as an untapped palm tree. I began to suspect that she was using her barren womb to oppress me. One evening, after drinking 7 horns of palm wine, I called Adaku for a meeting. I faced her, hands on my waist, belly full of alcohol-induced wisdom, and I said, Adaku, I greet you in the name of childlessness. I have been patient with you, but I cannot come and go and die in this world without a son to inherit all my land. Ah, what is my offense? Did I marry a woman or a bag of expired groundnut seeds? Adaku turned and looked at me like I had just suggested we cook her dead grandmother for dinner. But I continued talking. Every night, I have been doing my husbandly duty with great strength. I have planted and planted in your farmland, but not even a single corn has germinated. If you are a piece of land, Adaku, then you must be the barren hills of Umuofia. That was how Adaku burst into tears, but I did not send her. Instead, I took my newfound riches and married a second wife, Chidera, a woman so beautiful that even the moon would hide when she walked past. Ah, my people, beauty is a dangerous thing. For 3 months, I was distracted by Chidera's beauty and forgot the mission that brought her to my house, which is to give me children. Every time I wanted to talk about pregnancy, she would blink her long eyelashes and call me,
My lord, my handsome husband.
And she would serve me a plate of steaming pounded yam and oha soup. Before I knew it, I had eaten my destiny away. But after 6 months of marriage to Chidera, her belly was flatter than a drum before a festival. That was when my madness truly started. One by one, I kept collecting wives like a greedy farmer collecting yam tubers at harvest. After 7 wives, my house was filled with beautiful, robust Igbo women, yet not a single pregnancy. And let me tell you, my people, when a man has 7 wives and 0 children, he will look at the mirror and start suspecting himself. But instead of suspecting myself, I blamed the women. My people, let me not lie, I was an annoying husband to my wives. Every morning, I would line them up like slaves and inspect them as if I was checking for yams in a barren farm. And I would say to them, useless women, 7 of you, 7 full-grown women, well-fed, yet not even one miscarriage to show for it. Are you people parasites? All you do in my house is to eat food. Or have the spirits rented your wombs? My wives would look down at their feet in shame. And I even gave them nicknames. Adaku was Madame Decoration because she was just occupying space. Chidera, my second wife, I nicknamed her Beautiful Empty Calabash. Obianoju, I called her Flesh Eater, always eating the biggest meat in the soup, but producing nothing in return. Nkechi, I nicknamed her Ajofia, meaning Forbidden Forest. Amarachi, my fifth wife, I called her the Village Gong, always making noise about how the gods have revealed to her that she would soon conceive. Madam Town Crier, will you keep quiet? Then Kosi Sochuku, the dry season farm. No matter how much I watered her, it was pure Sahara desert. Woman, even if I pour a whole river inside you, will anything grow? And finally, my seventh and last wife, Chi-Chi, the sharp-mouthed one. I called her Echo because anytime I insulted her, she would return back fire immediately. I made sure they worked like prisoners doing life sentence, fetching water, pounding yam, scrubbing my back, all while I sat under the Odara tree, picking my teeth like a king. If food was delayed, I would shout, "So you people cannot even cook fast. Is the barrenness affecting your hands too?" I was a wicked somebody. If I had known that Karma was already tying wrapper and looking for me, I would have behaved myself. One fateful evening, I lined up my 7 wives like stubborn goats waiting for punishment and gave them a speech of mockery as usual. Holding my keg of palm wine, I was lambasting them for not giving me a child. I stood before them like a great king, addressing his subjects, and declared, "Look at all of you, standing here like unproductive farmlands. I, Ikenga, the great warrior, the powerful lion, the fertile bull of Ndieze, have done everything a man should do. Yet, none of you have been able to conceive. Am I looking at 7 women or 7 bags of dustbin?" My wives were murmuring in anger, but I ignored them. I turned to Chi-Chi, my youngest and most troublesome wife, and I said, "Chi-Chi, I married you last because I thought fresh blood would bring fresh results. But see you now, 6 months and nothing. Even the termites in my yam barn produce faster than you people." That was when Chi-Chi, the venomous serpent, struck. She folded her arms, looked me up and down, then dropped the bombshell that shook me to the bone marrow. She said, "Ikenga, my husband, have you ever stopped to ask yourself if the problem is you? You are here blaming us, but maybe you should check if that tiny malnourished thing between your legs is functioning well enough to get a woman pregnant." The other wives burst into laughter. Adaku even fell on the ground, holding her stomach, rolling like a fish in a dry canoe. Chi-Chi was not done with me. She continued, "You have married 7 wives and still have no children. Have you seen a man with a sharp cutlass that cannot clear grass? If a farmer plants 7 times and nothing grows, should he blame the land or check if his seeds are expired?" Murmured the other women. Gods of my ancestors, I wished at that moment that the ground would open up and swallow me. I was so embarrassed as a man. The laughter that erupted from my compound that day shook the foundation of the entire village. My neighbors woke up, my goats ran away, even my ancestors turned in their graves. And that was how my wives ganged up on me, saying that if I ever tried to disgrace them again, They would announce to the whole of Ndieze that I was impotent and that henceforth I will be the one doing all the housework, or they would tell the villagers that I have nothing between my legs. Ah, my people, what is worse than public disgrace? I had no choice. That was how a whole me, Ikenga the Mighty, became Ikenga the houseboy. I cooked, I cleaned, I washed their clothes, even their underwear. And one fateful early morning, I went to the river so that the villagers wouldn't see me washing my wife's clothes. As I bent over the river, scrubbing Chidera's wrapper with tears in my eyes, I knew that my ancestors had abandoned me. And so, my people, that was the day I decided to run away and clear my head, even if it's for one full day. And that, my brothers and sisters, was how my journey into the forest of destiny began. If suffering were a piece of cloth, I had worn it, torn it, sewn it back and used it as a bedsheet. I, Ikenga the Mighty, had washed 7 women's underwears and scrubbed floors until my reflection waved back at me. As I walked deep into the forest, I remembered the hell I have been through in the hands of my 7 wives. I remember one evening after cooking a pot of spicy yam porridge that I was not even allowed to taste. Every morning, before the rooster could stretch its leg, I was already outside, sweeping the compound with a broom so short that I had to bend like a broken banana stem. After that, Kosi Sochuku, my 6th wife, would hand me a mountain of clothes and I would wash until my fingers looked like an old man's wrinkles. Adaku, my 1st wife, turned me into her personal masseuse, massaging her back until my palms felt like they were chewing paper. Chi-Chi, the sharp-mouthed one, assigned me underwear duty. My brothers, I, Ikenga the Great, was rinsing and spreading women's wrappers, bras, like a village maiden. If you saw me pounding yam in the afternoon, you would think I was training for an ancestral drumming competition. And at night, I would collapse like a dead cockroach, only for one of them to call me.
Ikenga, come and massage my feet.
I had had enough. So today, I am taking a break, and I walked deep into the forest until I was so lost that even the birds were whispering directions to each other. I was tired, angry, and hungry. Then I suddenly saw an old man struggling to carry a big pot of water on his head. The pot was so big that it looked like he was trying to carry a pregnant elephant. I may be arrogant, foolish, and extremely unlucky, but I am not completely heartless. So I rushed forward and said, "Papa, let me help you before this pot crushes you to the land of the ancestors." The old man smiled, handed me the pot, and led me to his hut. When we reached, he looked deep into my eyes, and I swear it felt like he was counting my bad decisions one by one. "My son," he said, "why do you look like a man who has suffered both in life and in spirit?" I burst into laughter, not because it was funny, but because it was true. I told him everything, how I had inherited wealth, turned into a professional wife collector, and ended up as the first male housemaid in Ndieze history. But the part that pained me most was the fact that I had married 7 wives and not even one got pregnant. The old man nodded and said, "Ah, I see. But my son, before you understand why this happened to you, there is a lesson about marriage that you must learn." Before I could ask him what kind of proverbial nonsense he was talking about, he brought out a white feather and touched my forehead. And boom, I fell to the ground like a bag of cassava. And when I got up, my body has transformed. I stood up in shock, looked inside the pot of water I just carried for the old man, and saw my face. I had the prettiest female face I had ever seen. And I also had breasts. I touched my face. My beards were gone. My hands soft like boiled yam. My waist curvier than a river snake. I, Ikenga the Great, had become a beautiful woman. I screamed like a goat inside hot water. Chineke mee, even my voice was feminine. Papa, what have you done to me? The old man just laughed and said, for you to learn this lesson, I have transformed you into a beautiful woman. Now go to the next village, Umunze. You will meet a man called Maazide. He will marry you and show you Pepe. Ah, marry who? Show me Pepe? How? I don't understand though. Before I could protest, my legs carried me against my will, straight to Umunze village, where my real disgrace began. My people, as a man, I was struggling, but as a woman, I was a national treasure. The moment I entered Umunze, men started following me like I was carrying free pounded yam on my head. Everywhere I passed, they whistled, Mwama, you are shining like fresh palm oil. Another shouted, my beautiful sister, let me carry you before the wind steals you away. Ah, if I had known that being a beautiful woman was this stressful, I would have respected my wives. Or maybe, if I had been born a real woman, I would have enjoyed all this admiration. But as a man, I feel genuinely harassed. And if you are still following this wonderful story of mine, please subscribe and leave a comment. Now back to my story. As fate will have it, an arrogant, pot-bellied rich man approached me. I am Maazide, a wealthy man in this village. I have seen all the women, but you are different. And so, I will make you my wife. My spirit nearly jumped out of my body. But remembering the old man's words about marrying a man called Maazide, I swallowed my pride, battered my eyelashes like a village maiden, and said, oh my lord, what a blessing. As wedding preparations were ongoing, Maazide gave me a hut in his big compound. And for 1 week, I lived in Maazide's house. And let me tell you, my 7 wives treated me like a servant. But Maazide, he treated me like an ordinary goat. Woman, where is my food? He barked. Woman, have you washed my wrapper? Woman, if I snore, wake me up gently or I will flog you. Maazide made my stay a living hell. I saw Pepe. And the worst part, the wedding night was coming. Ah, I was not yet married to him and he is treating me like trash. After the wedding, I lay in my hut that night, sweating like a thief being chased by the village vigilante, wondering how spending the night with Maazide would teach me a lesson. Why in our ancestors' name did the old man transform me to a woman and bring me here for goodness sake? I looked at the roof and started talking to the gods. Chineke, is this how I will die? Have I not suffered enough? What if he tries to sleep with me? Ah, my life is finished. Then suddenly, I heard Maazi's loud, arrogant voice. Woman, remove your wedding clothes and enter my hut. Tonight, we will enjoy ourselves together on my mat. My soul nearly left my body. I rushed to the window, but before I could escape, zoom, I disappeared and reappeared back in front of the old man's hut. I looked down on my body. Breasts gone, my beards were back, my manhood had returned. My people, I fell on the ground and started weeping tears of joy. The old man laughed. Now, my son, what lesson have you learned? I wiped my tears and said, Papa, I have learned that being a woman is hard. I have learned that arrogance will send a man to his early grave. I have learned that if a man has 7 wives and no children, he should check himself. The old man nodded, threw the white feather in the air and said, follow it and it will lead you home. I followed the floating white feather and it led me out of the thick forest, When I got back to Ndieze village, I called my 7 wives and fell on my knees. As I knelt before my wives, rubbing my head like a lizard that fell from a mango tree, I said to them, "My beautiful, hardworking, and extremely patient wives," I began, clearing my throat like a village elder about to beg for bride price reduction. "I, Ikenga, the former idiot, have come to beg. Those terrible nicknames I gave you, Madam Decoration, Forbidden Forest, Dry Season Farm, please, please, remove them from your hearts. Clearly, the fault is from me, and I need to see Dibia Okonkwo, the herbalist, before things get worse." To my relief, my wives started smiling. Adaku stepped forward and made me to sit down with them, and she said,
Our husband, we forgive you, but you too, forgive us for blackmailing you and turning you into Ndieze's first male housemaid.
I wept small, and my beautiful wives consoled me. That night, we ate together like one big happy family, and from that day, I treated them like queens, and they treated me like their king. And my people, do you know what happened? Within 1 year, all 7 of them got pregnant. I became the father of many nations.